I've always been fascinated by the concept of making and spending money. In particular, how most people just waste it on stupid shit. Most of us are here trading our time for money. Time representing part of our lives, then going and just recklessly blow it all away. Buying things we don't need to impress people we don't care about. Let alone take time to learn how to be smart with it, manage it, and grow it. It's like walking up to the river for 8 hours to fill up a bucket of water. You walk for hours and hours, you get exhausted, at some point you get bored, then frustrated. At some point you finally get there, fill the bucket with water, and on the way back just recklessly and mindlessly spill it here and there without being careful, so that when you finally made it back home and your family is waiting for you and relying on that water, you show up and there's two fucking drops of water left in the bucket. It doesn't make any sense, but yet that's how a lot of people live their lives. With the FGA series ending, I wanted to make a video summarizing how much money I've made in total and individually in those different states and cities that I work in. And not only how much money I've made, but how much money I spent and how much money I've lost. So let's do a quick summary of each city. Server at Met Back Bay, downtown Boston. Around 1,000 per month, so anywhere from 3.5 to 4.5k a month. We lived in three different locations. First in Waltham, where we stayed with our Bulgarian friends that helped us tremendously. Then we moved to Brookline, and then the last couple months we lived in Winthrop. Net worth at the end was 25,000. None, just savings, not spending and wasting money on unnecessary things. I got hired in a restaurant in Pacific Beach where I applied for a server, but I had to go through all the positions because they were not hiring straight for the server position. So I was a busser, I was a host, I was a food runner, I was expo, weeks and months at a time. Anywhere from 4.5 to 5.5k a month. The first month we were on Airbnb in La Mesa, where we paid 1,100 a month, and then we moved downtown in a tiny little studio, more like a hotel room, and the rent was $1,200 per month. Net worth at the end was $50,000. This is when I first started to develop an interest and got passionate about finance and managing money, and started reading and listening to a lots of books about finance and money. And from gathering the information in those books, namely The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham and Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins, I started setting aside 20 to 30% of my income every month, and I opened up a Vanguard account. So I was buying index funds. And now memories comes back that it was such a old school and complicated process to open that Vanguard account. It wasn't just like a robo-advisor platform, logging in, creating an account and start trading whatever you like. There was like forms, having to wait in for a week to come in, me having to sign them, ship them back to Vanguard, wait for them to approve them, and then finally they'll grant me access to the platform so I can buy $1,000 of index funds. It was interesting. I had two jobs working as a server at Tommy Bahama on 3rd Avenue and M Waterfront Grill at Venetian Village. Earnings per month was averaging about 6.5k a month. But I remember December with all the holidays, Christmas and New Year's Eve, working double shifts in both jobs. I reached my first $8,000 month. Net worth at the end was $70,000. Still religiously setting aside 20 to 30% a month from my income and investing and buying index funds. I think at that point from Vanguard, I switched up to using the robo advising platform M1 Finance just because it was easier and more modern and it wasn't so old school. When COVID happened and everything shut down, we went back home, and during our 2-week quarantine upon arrival, I remember deploying almost all my cash buying VTI index funds and maxing out my Roth IRA account as well, when everything was pretty much 50% down, which is kind of crazy and unheard of for the stock market. It's not some meme coin or crypto project that is super volatile and goes up and down like crazy. It's an index fund that represents the health and the overall condition of the whole market. I got hired as a server captain at Fiova Mare, which is a very nice Italian restaurant at the Georgetown waterfront. Earnings per month, even despite the pandemic and still being in the midst of COVID lockdowns and restrictions, were around 6.5k a month. Our first month we spent in Anacostia in our Airbnb, or I should say survived, and then we moved to Arlington, Virginia, where we were paying $1,400 a month. My net worth took a little hit after Naples when everything shut down and we went back home because I did not work for 6 months. I was just living life back home. So at the end of our Washington journey, it was around $80,000 to $90,000. After hearing about Bitcoin from different sources throughout the years and rejecting it because I didn't understand it and I thought it's a gamble and a scam, there was a guy at work that bought 2 Bitcoins at $18,000, and when he went parabolic during the bull market, every day at work he was just screaming nonstop, I love Bitcoin, I love Bitcoin, Bitcoin is amazing. So I got curious and wanted to dig deep and understand what's cryptocurrency about. I started watching videos, documentaries, reading books, and got really interested in being involved in the space ever since. I ended up selling all my portfolio containing index funds and bought Bitcoin and Ethereum with that. That index portfolio were grown to about 35k at that point, and by taking those money, I remember buying around 23 Ethereum and like zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.3 BTC. And during the bull market, when Ethereum went from, I bought it at 1100, it went to over 4,000, my portfolio reached $100,000, which was a huge milestone for me. At the time, back during the quarantine, I thought I was a genius buying index funds when they were down 50%, but when I thought about it now, only if I got curious and understood crypto and Bitcoin earlier. Bitcoin at that point was at $3,000 per piece. So things could be a lot different now. But these are very insidious thoughts to have and probably not worth entertaining. I got back working in the same job straight as a server this time. No need to go through all the different positions. And it was much better. I was surprised that after the COVID and after the pandemic, it was actually much busier and better money compared to before everything went down. Earnings per month were anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 per month. The first year when we get back, we lived again in the same extended stay hotel in a little studio room, and the rent jumped from 2 years prior being $100 a month, it was 14. Then we moved to City Heights in a one-bedroom apartment, a little bit in the ghetto. That was 1850. And then a year later, we moved to North Park, where we're paying still 1850 a month. This is where things get pretty spicy and interesting. Net worth from over 180,000 to almost $200,000. Going back to zero, plus all my wife's money down to zero as well, because we lost everything in Celsius. You can watch my previous video. To 3 years later, back to $100,000 again. It was a pretty tough period. I remember before everything happened, still rejecting to buy a car because I wanted to save as much as I can, and riding the bus and the trolley, taking me an hour to get to work, but listening to audiobooks and podcasts, and knowing that my portfolio is almost at $200,000 and I'm still riding the bus. It was just an interesting feeling, and I don't know, I enjoyed it. And losing everything at a point where I promised my grandma her dream trip to Santorini. So I promised to take my grandma, my mom, my brother, and pay for a whole trip in Greece. Flights, cruise, stay, everything. I don't know, it felt like I got thrown off of a 100-foot cliff, slammed the bottom of the ocean, and I had to choose between staying there and drown, or just gather the little energy I have left, swim back up, battle with the current and the waves, and slowly get out of the water. So I suck it up, didn't tell anybody, just started picking up as many extra shifts as possible, work as much as possible, spent money only on bare necessities and bills, and just started aggressively building back up. It was a true sink or swim situation. So I just powered through it, didn't let anybody know what happened, and just try to save money for that dream of my grandma, for that trip that I promised her, and just try to start recouping the loss and make ends meet again. So let's see how the story is gonna unfold in the next couple years. Thanks for watching, my friends. See you in the next one. Cheers.